Hey, my name is Mike Sullivan, and I'm here with Pam Peterson, my partner. It's a pleasure. We work together. We're kind of associates, and we talk about various subjects that help and inform you on what to do if you have an IRS situation. And we get together before these meetings, and we discuss, especially for all of Pam's clients, what is helpful to them. And one of the big things, Pam, I know you've got a question on, I think it was last week, is, I have some pending IRS debt. And what did the person owe, like 62,000, and then they got to file their tax return right now. And didn't the person says, what should you do? Right?
Yeah,
Wasn't
yeah,
that the question they asked?
yeah. They were wondering, like they didn't have, I think it was 3 years that they hadn't filed, and then they're thinking, oh, well, should they file this year, and like skip the last ones? But always it's going to be you want to file all of them to get back in compliance with the IRS, because from there, once you're in compliance, then we can negotiate deals. But you got to get in compliance first. So definitely, um, if you owe, actually, or not, sorry, but if you haven't filed several back years, back taxes, got to do that right away. Now, Mike, do you want to talk about like you actually don't need to do it back past 6 years? So let's say you haven't filed for 10 years or like 20, which is, that happens. People don't do that. Um, Usually you will not have to file more than the last 6 years.
Yeah,
Now,
that's a real big thing. And what happens, I mean, I can tell you this because I used to bang on doors serving federal subpoenas for people who haven't filed multiple years. And it's so easy to happen, Pam. Once you don't file the first and second year, it's like you're just afraid to get
yeah,
back in the system. And
yeah,
IRS created years ago a policy statement. There's a whole bunch of policies that people don't know exist. They're not laws, but they're policies. And a policy is something that IRS generally adheres to. They don't enforce it like the law, but like, can IRS make you file all your returns? Well, if they wanted to, they could. But a policy says, nah, let's just have them file the last 6 years. And there is a policy you could look up yourself. It's the IRS policy statement P5133, which simply says we only have to file your last 6 years. However, if a revenue officer such as me were working your case, and could they make you file more? And I have done that. And you may say, well, why did you do that? Well, it was an asset case. I had a person who owed two, three, four homes, had bank accounts, had a couple boats. He just didn't want to file. Well, I wanted more than 6 years because the guy owed a bankroll to IRS. So I made him go back 12 years and file all his returns because he was gathering assets on the government's expenses. So, but as a general rule, 99.9% of people only have to file the last 6 years. So if you're thinking of filing this year because you're a wage earner, what do you really need to do in this situation? And you just had that happen to you the other day. Someone called you and we got on the line and we says, no, you have to file the last 6 years. Pam, what some of the sad thing is, people lose their refunds after what?
yeah, 3 years.
After 3 years. If you're a W-2 wage earner, you lose your refund. So if you've been
Yeah,
a W-2 wage earner by this April 15th, if you don't file your tax returns, what's going to happen to them?
yeah. No refunds for any years. 2022, right? Or no, 2024 is
Well,
due.
they're going to get their 24 back. They're going to get their 23
23,
back. They're
and
going to get
yeah,
their 22, but then come April 15th, they're going to lose that.
yeah. Yeah.
you've got to get those refunds in, right? And that's something you can probably knock out in no time. And generally, Pam, you may want to talk about this yourself because you're really more the filing queen. Not only do people have to file their federal returns, but what else do they have to file?
State returns, and if you own business, you might have payroll returns, sales
Yeah.
tax returns. So those are on different. Most of those are on different time periods, but yeah, there's a lot to file. Definitely do the state ones as well. The other thing I want to mention when we're talking about like time periods, like going back. So if you are, so that's if you have not filed your returns, right? You want to get the past 6 years done. Well, let's say you actually come under audit. The IRS can actually go, and you have filed those returns. The IRS can go back 3 years. They can open up 3 years. And and generally they won't go further than that. I think if they find an error in the first 3 years, they can go back to six.
If there's 25% omission of income, they can.
Okay, yeah, that. But then there's one other instance where they can open up any tax year of your entire life, and that is if they have found deliberate fraud. Then they can open any year they want. So
Hmm.
when people ask, like, how many years should you keep your tax returns? They generally say 7, and sometimes they say 3, right? And payroll returns keep them for 4. Like everything's a little different, but ideally, ideally you would not have fraud. But if you do, definitely know that could potentially open up any single year of your life. And I mean, imagine if they went back 20 years, let's say you had a business, that was just fraudulent for 20 years and they open that up. Can you imagine the amount of interest and penalties that have accrued on just 1 year alone over that time period? I mean, it's just insane. So that's just another reason also to just keep up, and maintain your consistent annual filing of your tax returns, your income tax returns.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's why, a lot of people say, when should I get an accountant? When should I get an accountant? Well, if you have a simple W-2, it's not a big deal to prepare your own, tax return if you just have a W-2. If you're
Yeah,
self-employed, you don't know when you want to become an LLC. You don't want to know what sort of state designation, federal designation. So, once you become self-employed, that's the time you start to grow up in the tax world. That's when you need to have a professional prepare your returns. It's not that you can't do it, you can, but you're not going to do yourself the best that you can for you. And the money and documentation and everything and the expenses that you lose, you're going to lose
right.
more than just paying a professional. So,
Yeah.
like I
And
say,
what I always, coming from the accounting bookkeeping world, like I can only just strongly recommend that business owners, whether you're a sole proprietor, whether you're taxed as a S corp or corporation, a partnership, anybody, like even if you're just making sales on Etsy, like it is so important to have your books up to date because your books back up. They back up what goes on your tax return. And if you're being taxed if you've elected to be taxed as like an S corp or a regular corporation, C corp, and a partnership, you're going to have your balance sheet in your tax return. So your books have to match that. If you get audited, you need to show that they match. They can't be different. Otherwise, I mean, this can of worms crazy is going to come down on you, if you don't,
mhm.
if you can't stand by your book. So having that, I just can't recommend enough to get, to always have your books maintained by a professional and not by your neighbor's cousin or, something like that, which is just unfortunately way too common.
Everyone tries to save money, but they
Yo,
really wind up
yeah,
losing
it's
money.
not worth it. And there was another thing I wanted to mention when we were talking about staying in compliance. Now I feel it's a little bit out of the thing, but here is a tip. Even if like for example, you're another reason to always stay in compliance is just file your income tax every year is because it keeps you and your current address in the system. So I have seen um, where somebody didn't file their tax returns and they didn't need to. They didn't have enough income that they were required to. However, it's still a good idea because that person had identity theft going on and somebody else was filing their tax returns under their name. So
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
recommend, even if you have kids, 5-year-old kids, they make no money, file their tax returns so there can't be like any fraud under their name. So that's another thing is,
I'm going to give everyone a huge tax tip out there. Huge, 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 huge. So you cannot file your tax return soon enough. Soon enough. I mean,
yeah,
opening bell, opening bell, opening bell. Why? Okay. All the fraudsters out there have to beat you to filing. If they beat you to filing, IRS doesn't know about it. They find out about you later. So if you wait to the first month, the second month, by the time you filed your return, guess what? The fraud, the
yeah,
ID theft has already happened, and now you got to go ahead and unwhirl that whole mess. I want to tell you something amazing that I have to keep up with this. I'm one of these tax nerd rats that keep up on statistics. That IRS has 236 filters now to prevent someone from stealing your information. 200, they had none 5 years ago. They have 236 filters, but that does not mean, but when it does get stolen, you got to get past all those 236 filters and it becomes a nightmare. And the reason you want someone credible, someone that's an enrolled agent, someone that knows what they're doing, you're going to they're going to answer IRS correspondence. They're going to keep up with the latest. This isn't just a buzzword, just something we say. I've been in this business for 51 years. If you are doing this yourself, you're going to go down with your own ship. If you're giving this to someone else and you're paying a professional fee, you're going to have a professional take care of your problems. So it's like the Fram oil filter used to say, you either pay me now or pay you later. And I'm just telling you, and this woman, Pam, she does an excellent job. Why? The reason I like Pam, and I want to tell you all this, is if you're a Schedule C, you're a business owner, you're a corporation, LC, whatever you are, you want to get all your books handled right. You want to timely. And let me tell you the reason for it. You can't have your records done soon enough. You don't want to have them done at the end of the year. If someone can do them every 3 or 6 months, as a former IRS agent, I can't tell you the fraud, the mistakes, everything that's going to be made. You are making sure as close as you can, your records are being perfectly, or I should say, as well as perfectly, being kept up with by Pam as anywhere else because you have an impeccable reputation.
yeah. That's my specialty is cleaning up people who have neglected their books. So we love to do that. I love to do that, and just from everything that I see, like I just can't strongly recommend enough that business owners, especially if you have payroll, like if you have payroll, you just must have a bookkeeper, a professional bookkeeper. The other thing that I wanted to mention, go back to about the identity theft, like if somebody starts filing
Hmm.
their tax return or a fake fraud tax return under your name, they when they file a tax return and they put a different address, the IRS will take that as an official address change. So the reason why people don't always know this is because they're not getting the letters from the IRS, questioning things, and then it spirals out of control because they have no idea and the address has changed, so they never get any correspondence about it. So that's just another reason, file every year. I mean, it seems so easy, but there's so many people that don't. And the same thing with books, but
I just want you to let you know Pam's middle name is the cleaner. Her name is Pamela the Cleaner Peterson. That is her name. That's the name she's going to go down with. That's what she's famous for. If you need to have your records cleaned in a positive way or be
yeah,
brought back in order And most of the, if you're listening to this, there's a good chance your records could be a little messy. You've got to get them straight from the start. This ain't no sales pitch. I don't care who you get your stuff to. Uh-oh, Sammy's going nuts. Sammy has found a squirrel outside. But I'm just telling you right now, at the end of the day, you got to get your first year started out right so it doesn't. These aren't infomercials, by the way. I'm not an infomercial guy. I've been on Fox Business News twice, ABC, NBC, CBS, News Nation, Newsmax. We are just giving you tax information. Use who the hell you want. But I'm telling you, ain't no better than the two of us, just letting you know.
Yeah, especially if you're a business, we can get you
Yes.
tidied up in every way, get it all tidied up and closed out for you. So, but yeah, individuals too, and especially higher amounts, balances owed. We'd love to help you out and get you the best deal and get you all tidied up. Well, Mike, thank you so much. Thank you for the kind words, and thank you guys so much for watching.
Well, I'm just reading from the text that you sent me. Pam is the best in the industry. I should tell everybody that she does a great job. Have a good one, my friend. Nice talking to you,
Thank you,
sweetie.
Mike. Thanks, guys. We'll
Have a
talk.